was like the perfect song, and you let us sing along. Now you're gone, but your spirit soars in our hearts forevermore.
Hi, I'm Brian Chrysagas. Welcome to a very special edition of I Pressed On, taking the word depression and making it something special and more positive. Today, I am so thrilled that I have one of my best friends. We have known each other. I never thought we'd be sitting here this many years.
I'm doing your show.
You're doing my show. Yes.
Honored.
Thanks you. Jack Scalia, who is renowned, he's legendary in Hollywood, but he's renowned in every way, being a supermodel, being a baseball player, a TV actor, a movie star, one of the best looking men.
Oh, stop it, Brian.
One of the best, seriously, you were even one of the best looking men in People magazine. So he has hit every type of thing. Yeah. and he's one of my best friends and my brother in the Lord.
That's right.
I adopted you a long time ago with Sean, and we've had a long lasting friendship, brotherhood, and we had you on earlier on a show with Barbie, and she's not on this one because this one's personal.
Brothers.
Yes, that's the bonding of
It's
the
a male
brotherhood.
to bro
That's
thing.
right. And Sean's right behind your back, so he's part of this too. But anyway, we had so much to talk about because you've done so many things. So I want to start it off with you telling me one of your most memorable or fun stories from Hollywood.
From Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you the best Hollywood night I ever had. Jackie Collins and I were very good friends.
Yes.
And
You did a lot of movies with her.
Yeah, and she fortunately she left us way too early in life. However, she invited me to a party that was Barbara Davis and Marvin Davis. Marvin Davis was owned Universal. He owned the Beverly Hills Hotel. He owned Pebble Beach. I mean, very, very successful man, also from Brooklyn. But he started out as an oilman up in Alaska many years ago. Anyway, we were invited to his house, and so we were a little bit late, and we get to the big mansion in Beverly Hills, high up on a mountain, a hill. And as we're driving up, the gates open, and there's a red carpet. It has to be like 200 feet long, and we see a group of people walking across the top of the driveway, and they were going down into the garden. And as we get there, then we get to the top of the garden, looking down, and there's like 12 steps, and there's this long table, and there were 16 seats. And because Jackie had said, we were invited to this party, would you like to go? And I go, it's just Jackie, because I don't like big crowds.
Yes.
And she said, there's only 16. Can you manage that? And I said, yeah, I can manage that. So we sit down, and I'm sitting here. Jackie was to my left. Barbara Sinatra was to my right.
Oh, wow.
Barbara Davis was here. There was Michael and Shakira Kane, Sean and Paula Connery. Then there were 2 empty seats. Then there was Mr. Sinatra. Then there was Mr. and Mrs. Greg. And then Marvin Davis was sitting at the top. Then there was Sidney and Joanna Portier. Marvin.
Wow, what a list.
Yeah, and Mr. and Mrs. Kirk Douglas and Mr. and Mrs. Gregory Peck.
Wow.
So anyway, we're there, and it's a barbecue. They had barbecue from Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Nebraska. And we go. There's a person who walks with you, and you say, I like that, that, and that. So as I'm about to get up, I see Gregory Peck and I see Kirk Douglas standing next to one another.
Wow.
And there's about this much room between them. And I go, okay. So I go between the two of them, and I move my elbows out like that, and they both look at me, and I go, now you can say you've made it. You rubbed elbows with Jack Scalia. And Kirk Douglas started roaring, and then Gregory Peck had this very Atticus Finch look on his face, and then Kurt looked up and says, lighten up, will you, Greg? So that, I mean, there's a lot more to that, but that was basically the gist of it. Then two empty seats were for Barbara and Don Rickles.
Wow.
Now, Don walks Barbara down. She sits down in her seat. Don walks back up those 12 steps. And he looks around and he says, what can I say? Our hostess, Barbara Davis.
Wow.
And she had jewelry, bedecked in jewelry. And he goes, Barbara, you know I love you and you're beautiful and we love you. But the Queen wants her jewelry back now. Then he says, hey, Frank, let me make you feel at home. Then he goes, Marvin Davis. Now, Marvin Davis was a big man. He was close to 400 pounds, I
Oh, my
think.
gosh.
And he had a special chair that the guys, his bodyguards, always brought around with them when we
Yes.
went to restaurants. And he goes, Marvin, what can I say about you? The only man to swallow a Cadillac and survive. So, but that night, with that group of people,
Yes.
with Michael and Shakira, Polar and Sean Connery,
Sean Connery,
and
wow.
then Sidney and Joanna Portier, and then
Yes.
Barbara and Don Rickles, and then Mr. Griss's Gregory Peck, Mr. Riss Kirk Douglas, Barbara Sinatra, next to Barbara Sinatra.
Wow.
I mean,
What a list.
it was a great, great night.
That was when Hollywood was great. That was
Yeah,
the
they were
classics.
they were the I would say like the blue blood or they were the royalty
Yes.
of Hollywood, and it wasn't that long ago, but a lot of them are no longer here now. So,
Yes, very sad.
But to have had the opportunity, just like when I was working with Cesar Romero, and we were in the Sherry Netherlands. We were doing a series. We had just come from a cocktail party that the producers had. We were staying at a hotel, the Ritz, right on Central Park South. And we come down the elevator, and as the doors open, and we step out, and Mr. Romero, Cesar, stops for a second and smiles. And then he starts walking. I go, wait a minute, what was that? He goes, well, what was that? I go, well, the door's open. You took a step. You had a little smile on your face, and you started walking. What was that all about? I asked nothing. I go, it was like a train drove. What was it? He goes, well,
Wow.
the last time I came out of those doors opened, elevator doors opened, there were two of my dearest friends. And I said, who are they? He goes, Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford.
Oh my
I
gosh.
went, are you kidding me? I go, wait a minute, what year was that? He goes, 1928.
Oh my goodness.
We walk outside. We're standing on the corner of Fifth Avenue and 59th on the east side, on the west side at Central Park South.
Yeah.
So I said, wait, what was this corner like in 1928? And he said, well, he goes, all the cars were black. There was an occasional color of a taxi.
Yes.
I go, the people, how are they dressed? He goes, well, the women had skirts on that went down to not quite the ankles, but the calves.
Yes.
He goes, all the men were dressed in three-piece suits, and they all wore a hat. And he goes, you know that little string that runs around the top of a fedora and it has a button on it? I go, yeah. He goes, you know what the button's for? I go, no. He goes, you know that little hole you have in your lapel? He said, on a windy day, you would undo this string and put the button through here. So if your hat was blown off, you
Really?
didn't have to chase it down the street.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, neither did I.
Wow.
So yeah, and then so now we walk across. I said, but what about? He goes, the hansom cabs, the carriages.
Yeah.
They were there. They were always there. And he goes, you see that building up there? I go, yeah. He goes, look all the way up the top. He goes, that's not the same building. There used to be a different building, and same building, but it had a big terrace on it.
Wow.
And he goes, and that's where I was discovered. I go, doing what? He goes, I was a flamenco dancer. He said, and he said
Oh,
it
my
was
goodness.
Paloma y Romero. Paloma the dove.
Yeah.
His dancing partner was called Paloma the dove.
Wow.
And there were many, many more stories about that. But just many, many more. But they were just from my work and the friendships and the relationships that I've maintained over the years from
Yes.
people that I've worked with. I could go on stories with Ernest Borgnine.
Rock Hudson.
Rock
so many other
Hudson,
people
yeah.
that-
And Rock, being my mentor, Rock Hudson was such a gentleman. He was such a good
That's
man. We lost him much too early,
Yes.
of course, with AIDS. However, when he passed away from AIDS and Elizabeth Taylor picked up the gauntlet,
Yes.
and it changed the awareness
Absolutely.
of AIDS.
Absolutely.
It changed everything.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Rock passed us. He was only 55 years old at the time. He died in 1985. But it was that was a seismic, that was a glacial shift
Yes.
when Rock passed away, and then Elizabeth Taylor, they were best friends.
Wow.
And then she brought this awareness that had never been there before.
That's
and,
awesome.
Yeah, so Rock was my first job. My second job, when we did the series together, Devil in Connection, where I played his son.
Yes.
And then
That was a great series.
Yeah, it was fun. I had no idea what I was doing as an actor, but it was fun. And then, when he passed away, it was things changed. However, he always treated me like a son. He treated me like he was, like he was my dad. He always wanted to do something for me, take care of me.
And we've said that you've worked with some of the most beautiful women. The last show we did, Farrah Fawcett, Lindsay Wagner, who's a dear friend.
Right, Lindsay.
Erica Kane, which is Susan Lucci.
Susan Lucci,
I would say Erica Kane.
Raquel Welch, Bo Derek,
Yes.
Linda Gray,
Yes.
Linda Hamilton, Stephanie Kramer, Stephanie
Amazing.
Zimbalist.
I think you worked with Kate Jackson in a movie where it was just like, I don't think you even ran into each other on the set.
No, we did work on the same film, but
Yes.
we weren't in the same scenes.
Yeah,
but however, Melanie Griffith, I've been very blessed. And equally with the guys, working with, Pierce Brosnan and working with Cuba Gooding, James Russo, just so many. Tommy Berenger,
Yes.
yeah, Tom's a great guy. Just real good, down-to-earth people,
Yes.
So I've been fortunate to have worked with... he did the original All Quiet on the Western Front. I'll think of it in a second. But Julia Prowse, also, what was Lou's last? I can't think of his name. Lou Ayres, who did,
Yes.
and he became the original Dr. Kildare through the 30s and 40s.
That's amazing.
But yeah, there was, whenever.
But your career was like endless, and then
Yeah.
you went from nighttime to daytime,
Right.
and you were nominated for an Emmy for daytime.
Yep.
And God has just blessed you abundantly, but it wasn't always the glamorous,
No.
fun life that it looks like from the outside.
Yeah.
Most people who have these wonderful lives, and we always say, I want to be like them. I want to, but we don't know what's behind all that.
Right.
So though the Lord was penning your life, the Lord had a plan and a purpose for your life. There were still things that you had to go through to get to that purpose.
Right, and the thing is that he had a plan and a purpose. Unfortunately, I had no idea. You see, he was ready to talk to me, and I wasn't ready to talk to him or to listen.
Yes.
And in the early years, I grew up in a very violent home, where if my mother wasn't calling the cops, the neighbors were. It was a very violent home. But that part is for me. It could have been what was a fulcrum or something that pushed me or motivated me through my high school years, and accomplishing the things I did as an athlete in
Yes.
football, basketball, and baseball, then college, and then being Montreal's #1 draft pick in the winter draft in '71, third pick overall. But I had learned to anesthetize my feelings and to keep out the pain through alcohol and drugs.
Yes.
And so, first of all, I have an allergy to alcohol. That's my disease, alcoholism.
Yes.
And also the same with the drugs. And it cost me my professional baseball career. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just kind of wild and crazy. And in the organization, my nickname was Loco. And but because of the pain that I was in, what I was going through, my depression, my pain, my anger, my hate, my not fitting in, even with all of these
Yes.
accolades that were coming in, All-American in basketball,
Yeah.
outstanding in college, all conference in college, and then being a #1 draft pick. I didn't understand it. I didn't appreciate it. I had no idea who I was.
Yeah, you once told us that it was because of the wounds from little Jackie.
Yeah.
That you couldn't get past that little.
I found an identity in that little Jackie.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that always had to protect him. However, I wasn't grown up enough myself to take care of him because I was into alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
And I couldn't feel anything. I didn't sense anything. It was like working off of instincts. And I know that God was always there for me, but I didn't know how to let him be there for me.
Yes.
So I kept having a lot of success as we went along, and then from the baseball career, then into the modeling career, where I did find a lot of success in it. And I don't know if it just came easy, or it was the right time, or God
Yes.
working once again.
It was God. It was definitely God.
However, I was still into my alcohol and drugs, and I
Yes.
had already ruined a baseball career with no understanding and having no respect for what the Montreal Expos had given to me.
Yeah.
The responsibility and the accountability. I didn't want any of it.
I loved that you used to always tell us that God gives you many wonderful packages.
Yeah, he was all through the years. First of all, getting through the childhood
Yes.
was a gift.
Yes.
The professional baseball, outstanding high school, college career, professional baseball, the modeling career. Yeah, he was giving me all these gifts,
And you still weren't seeing the gifts.
and I wasn't opening them.
Yeah,
They just
it.
happened to be there. It's like I was collecting them, but I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't recognize it. I always knew that God was there somewhere. Thank you to my grandma Josephine, the Irish side of me, my Gaelic side of me,
Yes.
because they were in church every day. And it wasn't until that I had that spiritual experience on a 12-story window ledge in Munich, Germany, that it started to turn, because I was ready to go off the 12-story window ledge, and
Yes.
God stepped in, and I felt that presence push me back from the ledge. And in that, he said, if you're going to continue doing with what you've been doing with your life, then just step off. But if you want your life to change, step back, reach out, I'll be there for you. And that's what I don't know how I got back in the room, but Joey Hunter, my pal from Ford Models, president of Ford Models, said, get on the first plane out in the morning, you're in the rehab day after tomorrow.
That's amazing.
And went to the rehab and in Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Mary's, and things started to change, and I became there a guy named Big Mac Lorendo. I hope, hey Mac, if you're ever out there, he helped change my life.
That's awesome.
Because back in the day then, everybody in the rehab was smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, staying up all night, BSing and doing everything. And I said something, and I go, it's not that way. Someone said something about God. I said, it's not that way for me. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, God doesn't love me.
See,
And he said, Jack, the God he goes, what kind of God do you know? And I said, all vengeful,
yeah.
vindictive,
Yeah.
and he watches everything, sees everything, hears everything, and everything I do is a sin. And he goes, that's not the God I know.
Amen.
The God I know, all loving, all embracing,
Amen.
all forgiving. And it changed.
That's beautiful.
It changed.
You met Russ Taff through me and
Yeah,
Sean.
sure.
And he's one of the
Great
all-time
singer.
great singers
Yeah.
in Christian music, but he's won Grammys and awards. But he went to AA, and he said that one of the teachers there told him, if your God is condemning you, saying he doesn't love you, doesn't approve of you, then fire that God and find one that loves you and is encompassing. And that really is your idea of what God was from what the religion told you, or what your stepfather
my interpretation,
was, or your interpretation or your experience. But the real God should never be put in what we think, because even now I am learning more about God. You never know the mercy and the depth of his love until you go into the desperation of depression that you were in, or that I've been in, or the people.
Depression, anger, hate, addiction, whatever the
Because he will go find
be.
you, and he will draw you back.
Well, and we talk about it in the 12-step program of being rocketed into the fourth dimension.
That's
God.
beautiful.
Because our dimension is height, weight,
Yes.
depth.
Yes.
And then you go to the fourth dimension. Being rocketed into the fourth dimension is God, is the spirit.
good.
And then there's the fifth dimension, not the group, but the fifth dimension that is the spiritual side, kind of God, but
yes.
it is God, but it's like up different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the one that where I would say where we walk in grace.
100%.
It's like high.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
buzzing. So being rocketed into the fourth dimension comes through a lot of. I was fortunate myself in the sense that when I had my addiction, my compulsion, to use, was relieved from me on that window ledge, on that 12-story window ledge, and other people have to go work and find it. And I was blessed in the sense that the compulsion and that the animal that's alive, that's rapacious, wants it, it just was lifted.
Absolutely.
However, I still have a physical allergy, so that I can't pick up.
Yes.
If
Well, we know our weaknesses.
Yeah, well-
If you know your weaknesses, and that's what the Bible talks about, learn your weaknesses.
Right.
But really, I loved your story. Tell this story because we're running out of time. But you were at a football game.
Oh yeah, no. I was at a late night talk show, and I won't say the host's name, but the host, he asked me about what we're talking about, my drug and alcohol,
Yeah.
my addiction, and my recovery. But I was only 8 months sober, I think. and he said, what's it? Where was your head at? What was it like? And I go, extreme phases of paranoia.
Yeah.
And he goes, Jack, I have no idea what that is. I go, okay, picture it. Look at it this way: you're at the Super Bowl. The ball's on the 1 yard line. There's 1 second left of the game. Both teams go into a huddle. If you think they're talking about you, that's extreme phases of paranoia. And you know what? They were talking about me. But real quick on the thing about when I was in my early sobriety, I was actually doing a show with Catherine Bach's
Yes.
husband,
Yes.
Not Callahan, I can't think of his last, Duke, excuse me, and Mr. Spelling. And I was working with Child Help USA.
Yeah. Wonderful organization.
Yes, largest nonprofit group in the world dealing with child abuse.
Yes.
And I was there visiting, and then when I left there, I stopped my car and I said, I got to write, and I had to write. And this is what I wrote. I wrote, I used to live in a house made of brick with no windows, not even a door. The light of life was unable to come in. The dark was the only place this child felt safe and protected within, when all I wanted was to hear the words, I love you. So there would be windows in a door where there had been none before. So my light and life of God could shine and make me free forevermore.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And that was just,
That
but
is
the
beautiful.
thing was, those aren't me. That's not my words.
No,
It's like, when Peter,
Yeah.
Paul, John, and Mark,
Yes.
and John, those weren't their words.
No, God.
You know, that to me, because they're their words, but I mean, when Paul was writing the epistles, when he,
Yes.
that stuff is all, that's all holy. That's the Holy Spirit.
Oh, 100%.
That's God.
Well, we are talking about the Bible, and your story is very much like Saul having a Damascus experience. You had it on a window ledge, but he had it on a horse.
Struck blind,
Yeah,
right?
he was struck blind. But what I love about you, Jack, is because you went from that person into a person that has such a heart for people. You have worked with the Vietnam vets. You worked for 9/11.
War on Terror vets.
Yeah, you helped so many people over the years, and I just wanted to address that. You've done so many charity events, and my brother and I were so blessed to have you in our lives. I was teasing you earlier, and I said, when did you realize that you found joy and happiness? Because you had all this wonderful stuff, and then you finally opened the package, and I said, well, it was when me and Sean came into your life.
Well, yeah, but it can come in waves. There are moments like, for instance, when I came off the window ledge,
Yes.
the 12-story window ledge. That was a moment that was beyond profound. That it was God
Yes,
who came and touched me.
yes.
And I still went, and I've had many battles with God since. Whether it's me, I want to do things my way, my self-will run riot.
Of course, we all do.
Right, and so we'll always be in conflict with God.
Yes.
It's in the Bible. That's just how we are, because we're sinners.
Absolutely.
Okay, but when it starts to when my ears are open, and I really listen, and when I get quiet, and I pray. And I do that. My wife, Idra, knows, and my kids know. I'll get in a car and drive for hours. I love long cars. Well, who do you call? Who do you talk to? I go, no, I don't call anyone. I listen to the radio maybe, then I turn it off, and then I'm just back. That's my time with God.
That's
And
beautiful.
my meditation every morning. I have my four prayers, my meditation, and that's how I start the day, because that's how I need to start it for me as a recovering alcoholic, drug
Absolutely.
addict. And so when I set that in the morning, when I do that, then I have an opportunity to have an okay day. Doesn't have to be the best, but I know it's not going to be the worst. And if it happens to be a really bad one, I've got who I always go to. And then there's the awareness that starts to come as we go on chronologically. I'm not going to say OLDER, chronologically as we move forward. Then there are the people in my life who inspire me, who love me, who care for me, who only want the best for me. And my wife, Phaedra, is one of that.
God brought you an angel there.
Yeah. So that is part of it. Then my children, my daughters, our children, our grandchildren, the last 6 have all been girls, and it's the best in the world. We have 2 3-year-olds, a 10-month-old, almost coming on 1.
Your entire life you've been surrounded by women.
Yeah,
Well,
ain't I a lucky guy?
Yeah.
and now we have she's 3 months now. Sadie Monroe and Reverie and Vera and Rose. So, but when these things that come into our lives that are God influenced, I want to be prepared and open enough and in a presence with Him so that I can understand and learn and experience what He's giving me.
Yes.
And so for me, it's like now I have more days of not just happiness, I have more days of joy.
That's beautiful.
And joy is that.
That is true.
So,
because happiness comes and goes, but joy is eternal.
But for continually working, continually moving forward. I may not be doing the things that I want to do in my business. There seems to be a shift that God said, I want you to focus on this now.
Yeah.
This is important, Jack. This stuff.
But you learn to have a attitude of gratitude for everything
absolutely.
now.
Grateful 24/7.
Jennifer O'Neill, a dear friend of ours, said, don't forget to tell this story, and I will just say it real fast. She said, don't forget to put on the whole armor of God. And we always put on the armor of God. And then she said, and why don't you have any armor for the back? And I said, I don't know. She said, because God's got your back.
Whoa!
So
bingo.
God's got your back, Jack, and all of ours.
When I do my prayers, I didn't want to say exactly which ones I do, but that is I always go through the armor of God. I start with the helmet and go way down to my greaves and my feet and shod in the gospel, my loins and girded with the belt of truth, pick up my shield of faith and put on my breastplate of righteousness, because then I'm covered. But that was great what she said.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
But I love you, Jack. But I love you. Thank you for being a part of my life. Thank you for being my brother. And thank you for being
from
on the
Hollywood
show.
to you, break a leg.
Until next time, please come back again and keep on pressing on.
For more information about I Pressed On podcast, visit chrisaugustministries.com. Find out who our next guests will be, as well as airtimes and dates. Please consider making a donation. Your donation helps fund all of the ways we spread God's word and testimony.